You're good.
Hey everyone, this is Chris and Sandy Bent with the Chris and Sandy Show. We get up close and personal with some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I said on every episode, we got a great one for you. Who do we have? Holy interview too.
Oh yes, we have Burt Ward, the original Robin from Batman and Robin. Burt Ward has gone from Cape Crusader to Animal Crusader with his Gentle Giants pet food. And we are so excited to have him on the show and hear about his story.
And we're excited to hear a little bit about the pet food.
Yes, we
Batman
are.
and Robin and your marriage and everything in between.
Everything. Yes. Welcome.
Welcome.
Well, hello, citizens.
This is like a surreal moment for us.
Is.
Well, you guys probably grew up watching me on television when you were in diapers.
Yeah, about right.
So I always like to start the show out the same way. As you know, the last 18 months has been tough for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
How has COVID affected what you do, and what have you done this last 18 months to kind of maneuver through this?
Well, you know, it's such a horrible thing and such a serious matter. Knock on wood, my wife and I have not caught anything. We haven't been vaccinated yet. That's coming, but we haven't caught anything. And we have an amazing world that we live in. We have a 5-acre compound in the heart of our city, and we have everything here. So the only thing I would say that's been limiting is, you know, going places.
Yeah.
Now I have a 100-year-old mother who I like to visit more. Wow. But let me tell you something. My mother is unbelievable. She is, for 100 years old, she is in amazing condition. In fact, I told her no more jumping jacks, no more somersaults. She's got to cool it at 100, right? Yeah. In fact, I tell everybody, the first 100 years are the hardest. After that, it's pretty smooth sailing. But that's the only limiting thing is going places, and I kind of miss going out for dinners, but we have everything brought in. And, you know, we have all the protocols with the, you know, people have to wear masks and gloves, and, you know, we have a service that goes grocery shopping for us. So, you know, other than the fact that it you know, it's limiting in the sense of going places, we're dealing with it. And I'm looking forward to a point where after we're fully vaccinated and after we, you know, this kind of calms down in our country, maybe approaches herd immunity, that it'll be a safer thing to go to. My press agent, Roger Neal, was telling me now that the studios are starting to come back. There's still people, a lot of people working out of their homes. But the TV stations are starting to do in-person interviews. And you know, it makes sense to come back slowly because, you know, it's a dangerous thing. And so other than the fact that it's been somewhat limiting for my wife and I, we have everything here. We have, I mean, an incredible home where we actually have our own recording studio here. We're building a sound stage. I mean, we're going to be making television and films and stuff right here on our property. I also have a visual effects company. I've done 35 feature films, all the graphics. You know, I've done a lot of major movies that actually have our own little world here, and we're incredibly happy. And we love people, but the other thing we do and spend a lot of time is our charity.
Oh, and yes. Tell us about that.
We do an enormous amount of charity. You know, it's so funny because people say to me, well, you know, Burt, I watched you on Batman, you know, and you were the Cape Crusader, but how is it like, for example, you've gotten involved with animals and stuff like that? I said, well, it's really not all that different if you think about it. I mean, I was saving Gotham City citizens as Batman and Robin. And now for the last 27 years, my wife and I have been saving dogs and cats.
Same concept, right?
You know, I mean, you're still saving lives, right?
It is.
And we've, just to give you an idea, we started in 1994. You know, you guys were probably, well, you were out of your diapers, Ben, but you were still very young. 50, so. There you go. 50?
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh my, what do you drink, formaldehyde? You look amazing. Very well preserved. Anyway, we started in 1994 rescuing Great Danes because we found out these big, beautiful dogs were all dying in shelters because
yes.
the rescue, every breed has a rescue. I don't know if you're familiar, like if you had, there's a Chihuahua rescue, there's a German
Yeah.
Oh,
Shepherd.
okay, per
Every
breed.
breed of dog has a rescue, usually in some city, major city, you know, in each state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Southern California, unfortunately, the lady that had been rescuing Great Danes herself had died. So all these Great
Oh.
Danes, gentle giants, were being taken into shelters
Love that term.
and put to death.
Mhm.
Because in animal
Oh,
shelters,
so
dogs
sad.
are always barking. And if you see a giant dog, you know, in a cage barking, a lot of people are too intimidated to take the dog out, even
Yep.
though the
Right,
dog is really
yes.
just calling for help, you know, not
Yes,
being aggressive, just
absolutely.
calling for help. Anyway, we started rescuing these Great Danes, and we've rescued more than 15,500
Wow.
Oh,
dogs in the
that's
last
amazing.
27 years. Not just Great Danes. We started with Great Danes. And in
Mhm.
fact, in the first week of August of 1994, when we started, in that 3 weeks till the end of August, by the end of that time, in our house, now, not outside, not in the building, I'm talking about in our house, I had 102 full-size Great Danes and
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
62 puppies under 7 weeks of age.
Wow.
Wow.
And my poor wife, Tracy, was getting no sleep because every one of these
Yeah.
7 litters, they had to nurse their puppies. And
Yeah.
she would
Okay.
sleep on our kitchen floor and bring a mother in and her puppies, nurse them. And then the mother, when they get up, because they have to go to the bathroom afterwards,
Mhm.
be careful with a Great Dane. They're so big that if they accidentally stepped on a puppy, that would be it, right?
Yeah.
So she's got to
Yeah.
really protect everything. And she would get the mother out and incubate the litter. And then here would come the next mother. And by the time she
Oh,
got
wow.
finished with the 7th one, it
Oh,
was time
wow.
to start the first one again. I mean, now that went on for about
Full-time
2 or 3
job.
months, but you talk about a real test of fire to start with, right in the very beginning. But
Yeah.
thereafter, people would come to us and they say, well, we got this beautiful Great Dane and thank you for rescuing it. But I've got this other dog, you know, that's his best friend, but I guess I'll have to take him to the shelter and have him put to sleep. And I look at my wife and I say, no, we're not going to do that. All right, leave the dog here. So we started getting more and more breeds. We now have 45 different breeds. They're
Wow.
here. Now there's only 164 breeds of dogs. We have about a third of all the breeds of dogs right here.
Wow.
And I think my wife has redefined the term Great Dane. If it has 4 legs and a tail, it must be a Great Dane, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we started saving these dogs and we found homes for them. And we found homes actually for every single one.
Right.
But what we also found out is that they have very short lives. The bigger the dogs, the shorter the
Yeah.
lives. traditionally.
Yes, we had heard
And
that.
Occasionally we would lose one. And when we did,
Oh.
it just so upset my wife, Tracy, and I mean, both of us literally sobbed. And we decided, now this is back in 1994, 95, that if there was a way, we'd find some way to help them live longer. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the most gentle, giants, loving dogs. And we came up because just imagine if you lived for 27 years of your life with never less than 50 dogs in your house, 24/7 for 27
Wow.
years. You have to learn a lot, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, you
Learn
would.
special ways of caring for them. And the long and short of it is we developed a feeding and care program where these dogs were living 3 to 5 years longer
Oh,
just
wow.
by the way you feed them and care for them,
Ah,
just by
mhm.
changing things. For example, most people feed their dogs twice a day. That's no good. That cuts the dog's lifespan in half as much. Okay.
Oh, wow, I've
Whereas if
never known that.
we feed our dogs a minimum of 5 or more times a day, smaller.
It's kind of
more
like how a
meals.
human should be.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
people say, well, 5 or more times, you're crazy. And I said, wait a minute. If you went to your own human doctor, say for an annual checkup, and you're there at the doctor and you were to ask your doctor the following question, doctor, am I better off eating 1 or 2 big meals a day or 4 or 5 smaller meals? What do you think your doctor would say? Everybody knows the answer. Oh, 4 or 5. Well, why wouldn't you do that for a dog who's not designed as well as a human being, who actually is more
Yes.
important for the dog to eat smaller, more frequent meals than a human?
Wow.
Well, that
That
makes sense.
plus the other thing we discovered is that dogs' bodies wear out much faster than human bodies. Okay.
Mhm.
That's why they
Okay.
don't live as long. Well, you know, on Batman, if you remember, on almost every show, there was always like an hourglass. You know, the hourglass where you turn it up,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
sands of time are running out, you know, that kind of stuff. Well, dogs energy, the ability to get up, to walk, to function, to play, to run, to just function, okay, is like that sand coming out of the hourglass. Eventually, over time, it all comes out. And when that happens, it's over. And it's over for our dogs as well as anybody else's dog. So how is it that we can have dogs running around like puppies in their mid-20s when other people's dogs can't get up anymore at 8 or 9?
Wow.
Well, the way we've done it is by conserving the dog's energy. No different than conserving water. If you had a drought where you guys lived and your city said, well, we got to ration water here a little bit, so that there'll be water for everybody, so it'll continue. Well, we found a way. For example, I'll give you a quick tip. Elevating the dog's food and water dishes. People say, oh yeah, I went out and I bought this little thing that's about a foot high. And I said, no, you don't understand. Every dog has a specific height that their food and water should be. And that height is such that they never lean down. They only put their head down. If you if you put your water bowl and food bowl down on the ground or even up just slightly elevated, just think every single day that dog goes down to get food, comes up,
constantly bending
up
over,
and down and up, and they're wearing their bodies out prematurely.
Wow.
So that plus another major thing, we finally decided to make our own food because we got these dogs living 3 to 5 years longer, and we thought, well, what else? Is there anything else? These are such wonderful. I'd love to have these dogs forever. So but we went out and we made our own food for our dogs, not thinking about ever selling it. You have to understand, when you're living with these animals and you live with them night and day, I mean, you care for them just like your own children, In fact, I like to tell people I have 2 human children and I've had 15,500 canine kids. Now, I love my human children, but I do have to say one thing about canine kids. All right. In 27 years, not one of those 15,500 dogs ever asked me to buy them a car. Okay. So I'm ahead of the game there.
Right.
We created this food, and something we discovered, and on a very serious note, we discovered something when we went to make this food that we didn't know, that people don't know, that pet food companies know. And it so upset us. It literally changed our life. Here's what we found out, that every pet food company knows something that the average person doesn't know. And that is, the more fat content they put in the food, the hungrier it makes dogs. Think about that. A pet food company filling their food with fat to confuse an innocent animal's brain to think it's always hungry.
Humans same way. You put more fat in stuff.
Well, exactly. In fact, you remember about 10 or 11 years ago, there was a movie called Super Size Me. Okay,
I remember
that? That was the whole thing. The guy went to McDonald's every day for a month in Ohio, ate every meal there, gained 55 pounds and almost died. All right.
Yes,
this is the same principle. So when we made our food, you have to understand, first of all, from our rescue and from our dog food, we don't take a dime in salary. We take zero. This is not about money. This is about life, helping loving animals live longer and healthier. So we made this food without all the fat. So what happened was, we all of a sudden are finding out, geez, I've got 18-year-old Great Danes. I've got 21-year-old shepherds. All of a sudden I'm having dogs that are living so incredibly long and so healthy. Here, just imagine, this kind of might be a little mind-boggling, but we have always a minimum of 50 in our house, right? We feed 600 pounds a day of gentle diet.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. Wow.
Now you've seen those big bags of dog food, right?
Yes.
We feed 20 of those a day. A day.
Wow.
Just think, what does it take to lift, carry, pour, and clean up from 20 giant bags a day?
Gonna keep you healthy, right?
Yes,
absolutely. But the key thing is that then the people that would come and adopt the dog, they would see like a 18-year-old Great Dane. I mean, Great Danes only live 7 to 9 years, or one of the other breeds, that we have here. In fact, almost all of our dogs have doubled their lifespan just by the way we feed and care. Some have tripled and one quadrupled, 4 times their normal lifespan. A Russian wolfhound that's supposed to live 7 to 8 years, lived 27 and a half years. Documented.
wow, that's
All right.
amazing.
And even if the TV show Inside Edition came out and they did a segment on our dog Tara, said,
Oh,
this
wow.
girl's oldest was 20, well, she was 25 at the time. She lived to 27 and a half. But so what happened, people would come out to adopt these dogs from us and they say, oh my gosh, I can't believe an 18-year-old Great Dane or a 22-year-old, whatever, Mastiff. And we adopted the dog, and they said, well, now what am I going to feed my dog? And we said, well, you could go out and feed whatever you want. And they said, no. We want to feed what you're feeding. I said, well,
Yes, to get that
food.
longevity.
We don't even have any labels. It's unlabeled. We technically can't sell it unless it's labeled. So all of a sudden we had to comply with all the labeling laws. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Because why would they, they would say, why would I want to take a dog that I feed them a regular food and they live 7 to 9 years where your dogs are living into their 20s? I want your food. And that started. And now all across America, in almost all the Walmarts and almost all the Target stores, online, every retailer, Chewy, Petco, PetSmart.com, all of the .coms have our food. And we make the finest food in the world for one reason, to help these animals live longer and healthier. And I got to tell you something, it's very touching to my wife, Tracy, and I, to know that, so many people out there. I mean, you asked me a question in the beginning about COVID. Well, look what happened when COVID hit. Everybody started staying at home. Do you know that animal shelters throughout the United States were emptied of their pets because people wanted companionship in their home?
Oh,
right?
yes.
And think about elderly people. Okay, maybe their kids have grown up. Maybe their spouse is no longer alive, and all they've got in the world is that dog. And they love that dog. If I can help people have their dogs live 10 years longer and healthier, what an incredible thing for their life, in addition to the dog's life, right?
Yes.
It's become our charity. And we do this, and we're very proud. And then I'll tell you something. We rescued 500 cats. Now that's a lot of cats, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah.
I mean, not as much as 15,500 dogs, but still 500 cats is a lot of cats.
That is.
2 years ago, we lost 2 of our cats. One was 31 years old. The other was 32 years old.
Whoa.
Unheard of to live that. Unheard of.
Yes.
Guess what they were eating? Guess what they were eating? Our dog food.
Oh.
We didn't have cat food at the time. So what we did is we have this amazing dog food formula. We then brought in the top nutritionists in the country, and they, took that as a basis and then converted it to be totally perfect for cats. And now we have Gentle Giant's cat and kitten food and Gentle Giant's dog and puppy food. But this is our charity, and we love animals, and what a gift what could be more important than life? We tell everybody, there's nothing more precious than life. That is our motto.
Love that.
Love that.
No.
Amazing.
I love the story. Love your passion for animals.
Yes, we love animals as well.
So let's go back a little bit before we get to your marriage, because we got a marriage story for you too.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That's crazy like yours. But let's go further back and tell us about auditioning to play Robin. I mean, did you know the part was going to be that? I mean, what did you know, didn't know? And
okay, let me tell you what I wanted to be an actor, and I was studying, and I'm talking about, this is graduating high school. I got an opportunity to go back east to apprentice at a very prominent playhouse called the Bucks County Playhouse in New Hope, Pennsylvania. And I got a chance to apprentice there. And as an apprentice, you build sets. They have the summer stock. I'm sure you've heard of summer stock.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks, a celebrity comes in and does a play and stuff like that. And I had this wonderful opportunity and that's where I sort of started in terms of being exposed to the people in the real industry. Yeah. But I've been studying acting at UCLA, where I was going to college, university at UCLA. And I was also studying professionally with one of the top coaches in Hollywood. I knew what I wanted to do, but I hadn't had an opportunity. My father was a very prominent real estate broker in Beverly Hills, and I got my license. You have to be 18 years old to get a license, and you have to go to, most people go to the, college or take a course, and, in order to be able to pass the test. Because I grew up in a family where my father was so knowledgeable, I never even had to study. I just went and took the test right after my 18th birthday, and I became the youngest person at the time in California to get their real estate license. So on the weekends, I was helping my father. There's a thing when people have open houses where someone sits there at the house and greets people when they come in and maybe hand them a brochure. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the people that came in to one of the houses that I was there was a very prominent Hollywood producer. And I've always been a friendly person. I got talking to him, and he told me what he did. I said, sir, I would really love an opportunity to show you a scene. Could I just do a scene in front of you? He's like, what now? Yeah. And I just did this, and he said, you're pretty talented. Let me send you to an agent. Because in Hollywood, you can't do anything if you don't have an agent. I mean, it's like people who have agents say that they don't do any work. People who don't have agents don't get a chance. I mean, it's like you can't win, right?
Can't win there, yeah.
So I went to, he was so nice, this man. He sent me to an agent, and when I went to see this agent, here's what the agent said to me. I can't get work for the actors I've got. I would never take a new actor. If this producer hadn't called, I would never consider you. But because he called me and asked me as a personal favor, I have to do it. So don't expect to work for a year. If you do get something, you might get one line, and you're lucky to have that. I'm like, whoa. Okay. So I left there, and it was a couple of weeks, and then I got a phone call from, I guess, his secretary in his office, and she said, there's something going over at 20th Century Fox. We don't know what it is, but we have an appointment. They're interviewing young guys. So tomorrow we have an appointment. Drive over to the, the gate at Century City, 20th Century Fox. At 4:30. So the next day I showed up at the gate, and yes, there was my name was on the list, and I got a pass to park onto the lot, and I found the bungalow that I was supposed to go to. They have instead of like a big building, they had all these like little separate bungalows, right? Where the different shows were cast and stuff like that. So I went in to meet this casting director, and I said, he said, oh, you're Burt? And I said, yes. And he said, well, nice to meet you. And we talked for a couple of minutes. He said, would you like to meet the executive producer? I said, sure. Now you have to understand, I'd never been on an interview, and it is not easy to meet the executive producer, but I didn't know that, right? I figured everybody
thought that was normal.
Yeah,
why not?
That was what they do.
So he said, okay, well, there's another bungalow. You got to walk on the, over there to that bungalow. And so I went over to the other bungalow, and they said, oh, are you Burt Ward? Yes. Okay. Well, come in. William Dozier is going to meet you. And I walked in, and, again, I'd never been on an interview. So therefore, unlike all these other actors that are just devastated from rejection, I mean, they're just been rejected so many times. And, it really hurts when you're the product. You know what I mean? It's not like you're selling toothbrushes and somebody doesn't like your toothbrush. Well, so what? But if you're the product and somebody's, it's no good. I mean, it kind of demeans you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I never had that. Because I'd never been on an interview. So therefore it was never turned down. So I walked in, and this executive said, hello, sir, like this. And he's like, oh, you know what I mean? No actor's never done that with him. Right? I mean, he couldn't believe it. And he's like, he looked at me for a minute. He said, he says, you're kind of big for the part. I said, oh, but sir, I promise you, I won't grow anymore. And he laughed, right? I mean, how big is that? And he said, would you like to do a screen test? I said, sure. I figured everybody got to do a screen test. Well, that's not true either, but I didn't know that. So anyway, but I still had no idea what this was about. So and by the way, you can see my screen test on YouTube or internet, right? Okay. So the first thing I did in my screen test, they wanted someone who was athletic. Well, I had been studying karate that had just come into the United States in 1959, which is, and this is 1965, right? So I'd already, but most people never even heard of it. So I did some judo stuff and falls, and I broke a board with my hand, which nobody had ever seen at that time.
Was that some of the stuff with Bruce Lee?
Well, I got to be friends with Bruce Lee. He and I used to spar together. We used to fight.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Anyway, so they said, well, okay, you know, after I did this physical stuff, they said, well, we want you to do a reading here. We want you to meet this other actor. And they handed me a single sheet of paper. And on that single sheet of paper, it just said Bruce and you know, a couple of sentences. And then it said Dick and a couple of sentences. Didn't say Bruce Wayne or Dick Grayson or Batman. Just Bruce and Dick.
Just Bruce. Wow.
You know, and plus I had no idea. Nobody told me what this was about.
Yeah.
So he said, here, you're going to read with this
Which
actor.
was probably good.
Exactly. Probably. And so you're gonna read with this actor, and I was introduced to Adam West. I sat down next to him to run lines. You know, that's where one says their line, the other, and you kind of practice together. And within 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. We got along so well. And you know something? For more than 50 years, we never stopped laughing. We just got along. We was like two peas out of the same pod. I mean, we just got along so well. He's such a funny guy, such a wonderful guy, amazing guy. So anyway, we did this Bruce and Dick stuff. Again, who would know what it was? It's very simple, language and stuff, nothing that would be telling. And they said, okay, good, we're done with that. And I said, well, thank you very much. It's nice meeting you. I enjoyed the screen test. They said, whoa, wait a minute. We don't want you to leave yet. I said, oh, well, why not? Well, we have one more thing for you to do. I said, okay, well, what's that? We want you to go over on the other side of the sound stage. We have a trailer there. And there's two wardrobe men who are going to help you get dressed. And then we want you to do some other stuff. I said, okay. I said, with all due respect, I'm perfectly capable of dressing myself. No. You don't know. You just go over there.
You'll see.
You'll see, right? So I walk across this giant soundstage. I'm telling you, it's like walking 3 blocks down the street. This thing is gigantic, right? And it's like tall and cold in there. You know what I mean? It's heavily padded to keep the sound out. So I see a light on in this trailer. I go in there, and there's sure enough these two guys there, and then they have it looks like a giant mattress, but it's like a couch that's 12 feet long. I mean, just huge. And on this thing, and it has no back, it just has like a kind of giant mattress or multiple mattresses. Anyway, there's all these clothes there, and I said, am I going to put some of this on? They said, no, you're going to put all of it on.
Whoa.
What? Really? Wow. These guys helped me get dressed in what I can only tell you is the most uncomfortable thing I ever put on my entire life. Everything itched or hurt or pinched. There was not peace in my life in any part of my body. From the mask at the top that they irritated the edges of my eyelashes, if you can imagine something that keeps rubbing your eyelashes, drove me nuts, to tights that pull the hair on the inside of my leg, to boots that pinch my feet, to, every double thick bridal satin cape that like pull my head back like this, you just couldn't believe it. Nothing, it was just horrible. Everything itched or hurt or pinched. So, and I'm hobbling, right? I'm like, how do you move in this thing, right? And you can't really see except right through the mask. In other words, you have no peripheral vision. You have no down vision. I mean, you can only see straight ahead. I nearly broke my neck coming out of that door of the trailer because I couldn't see down to find the step.
Oh, wow.
Right? Being the positive, and I don't even understand what this is about. All I know is I'm in this torture suit, but I've always been a positive person. You know what I mean? Positive. So I'm trying to think positively. So as I started to hobble to the door, I turned around to these two wardrobe guys. I said, well, the good news here is that after probably another 15 or 20 minutes, I'll never have to wear this costume again. Famous last words, right? So I hobble all the way across. Just imagine walking 3 blocks and something pulling, pinching, twisting, hurting. Just agony. And I get over there, and then I see this other actor, the Adam West, the guy I was doing, and he's in a cowl and a thing. You have to understand, we did not have, where I lived, there was no such thing as Batman comic books. There weren't. There was Superman.
You didn't know.
I thought maybe this is some kind of Shakespearean piece or something dated back to Shakespeare time. Why are we wearing these capes and stuff like that? And I had no idea what this was. Anyway, so after that screen test, I waited 6 weeks, and about 2 weeks into the 6 weeks that I was waiting, I started getting phone calls from the studio, like, what's your shoe size? Oh, okay, what's this? Well, what's your hat size? I don't wear a hat. They said, well, go get your head measured. Well, where do I go to get my head measured? Things like, you don't know these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, why am I getting these calls? And then at the end of 6 weeks, I get a call from the agents. Okay, these are the ones that told me, don't expect to work for a year. They said, we want you to come in and sign contracts. And I thought, wow, I'm now going to be formally represented. These are the agency contracts. I can say I have a legitimate agent. So I drove over to Century City and I went in and they said, here, and they sat me down and I'm looking at a contract that's like this thick, right? 1.5 inches thick. And I'm saying to myself, gee, that's kind of thick for just for representing somebody.
Yeah.
Right? And I looked down at the contract and it says 20th Century Fox Studios. And I said, I called him. I said, wait a minute. To the secretary, I said, I've got the wrong contracts here. So what do you mean? I said, well, I'm supposed to be signing agency contracts. I'm not signing these contracts. They said, no, those are the contracts you're supposed to sign. I said, what do you mean? And then guy comes in and says, well, wait a minute. You obviously know you got the part. No, I don't know. You mean the studio didn't tell you? I said, no. And then later I went to the studio and they said, you mean your agents didn't tell you? So 4 of the 6 weeks that I was rotting, waiting for something to happen, I actually had the part, but didn't know about it.
The whole time. Oh, wow.
And that was the beginning of this whole thing,
crazy adventure.
And the next week I was called into the studio and I went in there and I saw the same executive producer. His name was William Dozier, very prominent, very dignified man. And he said to me, would you like to know why we selected you, Burt, to play this role? I said, yes, I'd like to know. He said, because in our minds, forgetting television, let's just forget television for a minute.
Yeah.
What if there really was a Robin? I mean, like the real thing.
Yeah.
We think that you personally would be it. So we don't want you to take on a character. No. We don't want you.
You're playing you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the only thing we ask you is the only 2 things we ask you: be yourself and be enthusiastic. Well, I don't have
that was easy, right?
Yeah.
It's like nothing, right? It's so funny because all through these years, we would do specials or this or that. And a couple of years ago, I did these 2 Warner Brothers movies, animated, where I did the voice. And, I have these interviewers say, well, what's it like to get back into character?
Never left.
I never left. What do you mean? They don't understand. So all of those mannerisms that you saw, like, hitting my fist together and, all of those things, that was me. And just to give you an idea, last year I got my star in Hollywood Boulevard, which was really an amazing.
Congrats on that.
It is amazing. And, and I tell people I am a patient person, but I waited like 50 years. I mean, don't you think that's kind of long, 50 years?
You waited my life.
Right. Anyway, after that event, it's kind of customary for the celebrity to throw a party thanking the people, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce and all that kind of stuff. And which we did right around the corner at this place called the Hollywood Museum. Fantastic museum. Has a big Batman display, an entire floor, Batmobile, everything in the museum. Okay, all the scripts, all the costume, everything. So I threw this party, and what was amazing is, and this my press agent Roger Neal had put this together. He had arranged, and I didn't know about it, for some people that were actually actors on Batman to come during the time it was filming. Okay, I hadn't seen these people in 50 years.
Wow.
Right? And also at this party was the original director of the pilot. His name is Robert Butler. Original director. This is the first director I ever worked with.
Wow.
And he came there, and he's obviously, way up in years, but nicest man in the whole world. And he said to me, Burt, I have a story to tell you. No. And I said, geez, and this is at the party. And I said, well, I'd love to hear it. He said, the first day on the set, when I came in to direct and I was introduced to you and Adam, the executive producer came over to me and said, we've got this young kid that we've cast as Robin. And we don't know if he can act or not. We don't know what he can do, but we'd like you to go over and talk to him and see if you can work with him. Are you going to be able to, are you going to be able to get stuff done with this kid, And I remember this was right just there setting up stuff. He came over and says, can I talk to you for a few minutes? And I don't really remember the specifics of what he said, but I remember the fact that because, here it is, like this big Hollywood director is coming over and asking to speak to me. Okay. And I talked to him for a few minutes and then I just never thought about it again. Right.
Yeah.
Well, he told me the part that was really interesting, that he went back to the executive producer and says, you think, you can work with this guy? Do you think you can mold him to do the character that, the way you envision it? He said, let me tell you something. He said, this is what he said. He told me that he had said to the executive producer. He said, this kid is such a natural. I am not going to stand in his way to do anything. I'm going to let
you be you.
Yeah.
That's right. He said, I'm not telling him anything. So, which was what a great compliment. But here's an example of something, how it actually occurred. In the very first show, against the Riddler, Batman and Robin, we get a call. We go to this museum where we believe that the Riddler is about to hold up the museum. This is the first episode. And we pull up with the Batmobile outside of what museum is, and with a big tall building. All right. Well, most people get in and out of their car by the door, right?
Yeah.
And throughout the series, I ended up jumping over the door to get out, or jumping into the door over the, always that. Not any regular stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, in this particular time, because the way we pulled up, that the back of the Batmobile was about closest to where the building we were going to climb. Instead of going out, just opening the door and getting out, I stood up on the seat, stood up on the door, walked on that fin that goes on the back, and jumped off the back. And the director says, cut, we can't do that. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we didn't plan for that. We thought you were coming out the door. Well, I just did what I thought was right.
Yeah.
And the assistant director says, oh, I'll tell him that he has to come out the door. And then the director says, no, wait a minute. What he did was actually amazing. That was just so natural. He said, all right, let's take another half an hour, get the track. We're going to dolly along. And there it was in the show where I did the same thing. Okay. Walked along the stuff, jumped off the bat. I mean, that shows you something that isn't planned, that was natural, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't know is that George Barris, who created the Batmobile, he was on set with two of his people that keep the Batmobile shiny. And he was having a heart attack that I was standing on his Batmobile and my bat walking on that thin, okay, head that could easily have been dented or scratched or whatever. He was having a heart attack, and the director found out about it, and he had two of the guys that work for him holding the guy back from attacking me, because and they said, you leave my actor alone, I mean, I found out later, and I became very good friends with George Barris, but I didn't realize at the time that I had to worry about his paint job in the car, right? I'm just trying to do the scene. And it's that kind of naivete that I had, and that the studio just loved, because I would do all these things that nobody ever asked. Nobody ever told me how to say a line, or never told Adam. People are directed all the time. Oh no, can you say it this way? Can you do it a little faster? Can you do this? Can you do it? No, Adam and I had such a relationship, a chemistry between us
that y'all knew. Y'all knew what each other were about to do.
Exactly. And and Adam was like, what an amazing character. And people ask me, I mean, is he really that stiff in person? I mean, is he really that just, like that? I said, every bit. That's him. You got him.
That's him.
The bigger he got with, Robin and this and that, and then the faster I would talk. I always counter whatever he did, and it worked perfectly. And nobody
y'all balanced each other.
Yeah,
absolutely, all the time. I mean, but he would say things to me that I would literally like bow my head and say, "Oh my God." He said to me one time, he says, Burt, and he's all totally serious. He said, I really got the essence of what it's like to play Batman. I said, oh, really? Well, how'd that come about, Adam? He said, well, I was watching Charlton Heston the other night in the 10 Commandments, receiving the word of God from the Mount, Sermon on the Mount. I mean, my God, you know what I mean? He saw himself like Moses bringing the tablets down. I mean, and of course I was, fast and this and that. But he and I got along so well, and it was this. I got to tell you something. Comedy is not easy to do.
Yeah,
Making people cry or being serious is a lot easier than making them laugh.
exactly.
And the key to great comic duos in history has been contrast, right?
Yes, that is
Abbott,
true. When
you know,
all
The,
the great
the yin for your yang,
you know,
right?
Laurel and Hardy.
Yes.
Ed McMahon, Johnny Carson. I mean, great contrast.
The Chris and the
The more
Sandy.
the contrast, the more entertaining. There you go. You're the dynamic duo there. So that's what, and so Adam, that's what he and I did. We played off the contrast, and Adam had such a sense of humor. Oh my gosh. And he did things that always were very suggestive.
You know what I love about
he could
your
not
story?
leave it alone. He had to go very suggestive. Yeah.
You know what I love about your story? There was a quote I remember hearing for years, and I always remembered this, where someone said, "I would rather have ignorance on fire than knowledge on ice."
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
That reminds me of you, because you were so ignorant with the industry that you just was so enthused, so excited, so this, and it created the whole character around you.
And see what was so interesting in terms of why it was partly so successful is it was whenever you have an actor and I mean, if somebody walks down the street, let's just say you see somebody walk down the street, say, hey, I just saw you walk down the street and I'm a producer and I'd like to film you walking down the street. And would you please walk down the street again? I guarantee you it would not be the same walk. You understand? Because once you become conscious and self-conscious, right? But you've got to understand, for me, I couldn't care less about what the camera was doing. I was totally having fun. And because of a black belt in karate, at the time was a brown belt, I love the fight scenes. I could hardly wait to get in there and fight with these guys. You know what I mean? All the stuntmen and stuff. And so for me, this was all, it wasn't like a game, but it was just like, I just had fun with it. I never worried, oh, well, how do you look on camera? What about this? Or, oh, is that your good side? Or, all these crazy things that these actors go through. I just did what I was doing and I had such good time, and they left me alone. They basically just left Adam and I.
Let you run it.
Yes, let you run with it.
And it's funny because, there's so many things out there in society that teaches people how to be. And I love your story, because you're just saying, just be you, and the right opportunities will come.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And so I did everything, never had any issue whatsoever about anything. I mean, the only thing I will tell you, it was a very dangerous show. I got hurt a bunch of times from explosions that were supposed to go in one direction. Ended up in the first week, I went to the emergency hospital.
Oh, wow.
For 6 days, 4 days in a row going to an emergency hospital. 3rd degree burns one day, broken nose, 2x4 landing on my nose. I mean, I'm telling you, I didn't think I was going to survive the first week. It was a really dangerous show.
And then you look back 50 years later and you're like, wow, right? I can only imagine that here it is, you were young, you were that, nobody had any idea that the Batman and Robin would become such a big phenomenon.
Yes, how iconic.
Let me tell you something. At the time, because we were on twice a week, it was the #1 and #2 television show in the entire world. Okay. Adam and I went out and made personal appearances. Okay. And we would have lines that were 5 hours long with people standing in line just to shake hands, not even have a chance to talk. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Hi, how are you? Sign an autograph, like that. 5 hours. I mean, the lines were gigantic. It was just, it was so much fun doing it, and people just loved it. There's something about that made Batman so successful. We were in people's homes with their family. We're a family show. We appealed to everybody. For kids, it was the ultimate hero worship. Oh my gosh, who wouldn't want to be riding in the Batmobile with Batman, climbing buildings, fighting heinous villains, saving
That's the
lives?
ultimate.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be doing that? Okay, every kid wanted to do that. And for the adults, it was the nostalgia of the comic book, bring the comic book being brought to life. And there was another segment that was very hard to reach in the 60s, and that was the college kids and the high school kids.
Yeah.
At that time, nobody wanted to be inside. I mean, everybody wanted to be, let's cruise around, Friday nights and Saturday nights, rev your engines up, going around
even in my day, we did, I remember I was 18, I had a lowrider truck, and we'd cruise up and down a Walmart parking lot.
There you go. That's that stuff. So how did we get those people? Well, that's where Adam and I started doing something that had never been done in television before. And that was saying one thing, but doing something that gives the impression of something else. In other words, we used to say that, we put on our tights to put on the world. Okay. And and by the things that we said and the implications, and they got kind of heavier and heavier and heavier, we found out that they would say in college dorms that students would get to the cafeteria where they had television sets an hour and a half early before our show, just to be able to get a seat to watch Batman for 30 minutes. That's how hot it was.
Wow.
So it was really, it was an amazing thing. And it was so funny because, meeting people, and I've done, I think it's over 7,000 personal apperances.
Wow.
7,000 in different cities all across America. Signed more than 8.5 million autographs.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Wow.
Oh my gosh. You talk about hand cramps. See, I got cramps in every place there's a place to have. Yeah. But at the same time, and people that would meet Adam and I, it's so funny because I would see them meet, like at some of these Comic Cons and stuff, they meet other celebrities, like, oh, wow, it's nice to meet you, this, that. But meeting Batman and Robin, I mean, people would get this twinkle in their eye and kind of a smirk.
Well, like I said, it's surreal having you even here.
It is.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of fun doing Batman, and we always protected the characters. When we would make appearances in costume, if somebody said, "Oh, we'll take off your mask," we would never do that.
Keep the integrity of the character.
And when we wore our costumes, we were in character. If somebody said, "Well, how do you like being an actor?" I'm not an actor, citizen. I mean, we would.
Oh, I love that.
We made it real, and those kids came up.
So they got that experience.
Oh my gosh. And and so many funny things happened. Like I remember one time, just a funny thing, where all these people are in line for hours and hours. And there's one little kid, well, I guess he's probably 10 or 12, but he wasn't really little, but he wasn't an adult. But he's by himself, right? And he had his picture there. Okay, and I just finished signing on, because I'd say, "Hi, how are you?" And then shake hands. "What's your name?" "Oh, my name's John." And I'd sign it. "Nice to meet you, John." And then here this little kid came up, and he was so nervous. I said, "Hi, how are you?" He said, "I'm fine." I said, "Oh, what's your name?" "I don't know."
Oh,
he forgot his name. He forgot his poor thing, was so nervous, forgot his name.
Yeah.
I've done that on our show.
I said, "No," I said, "You stand over here for a minute." You know what I mean? And you can think about your name. And when you know your name, just tell me and I'm going to sign your photo, right? And it was so funny. Right behind him was another man with his son who said, "Okay, come on, son, it's our turn. We know our names."
Oh, that's hilarious.
There's been a few times where I start the show out and I'm like, "Hey, everyone,
this is
crit," and then my mind goes blank.
Absolutely.
Brain freeze, we call that.
Exactly. So these things happen, but overall, it's been an amazing life, amazing opportunity. Been very fortunate. Now it is kind of strange because people say, "Oh, well, you're an icon." "Oh, well, that's nice. Sounds nice. You're a legend." "Oh,
you're just you."
That's it. And then they say things like, "Burt, you are very well preserved." And what do you mean? What do you think? I drink formaldehyde? I mean, and for me, I'm the kid that never grew up. See,
and you didn't have to. You were able to play that part.
Right, yeah. And so for me, nothing's changed, for me, and all the people, and it just seems strange though, and people like, you know what I mean? In others, I don't think of myself as anything different than anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when somebody says, "Oh, wow, this and that," I say, "Oh, well, that's okay,"
You're just
I mean,
Burt.
exactly. I don't, I've always been that way. And maybe it's because I wasn't rejected so many times. Some of these actors are so emotionally torn down to feel like they're nothing. And by the time they get somewhere, all of a sudden they become a monster themselves. You know, but I was never that way. I mean, and in fact, in acting class, I want to share one thing with you. This is an acting class before I ever, met this producer or went out for the interview. I remember the director in my acting class said, "Burt, I'd like you to stay afterwards. I want to talk to you about something." I thought, oh, gee, maybe I did something wrong. And everybody left after class. He said, "Burt, you are different than everyone else in my class."
Wow.
And I got, oh, I don't know, maybe it's bad, right? Maybe I'm really bad. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, everyone in this class, okay, wants to be an actor so bad. And I know you do too. But the difference is that I just have this feeling that if you didn't succeed, you could be perfectly happy and have a happy life. Whereas everybody here, they're so on edge about their chance that they almost prevent their success by being so intense about it. Where
right.
It's really true. And I'll tell you something. With all the success I've had, there's been a few things where I didn't get something. Like when I was doing Batman. Let me tell you a real quick little story. When I was doing Batman, right after this is the first season. I mean, it's the hottest thing in the entire world. I'm at 20th Century Fox, and a young Hollywood producer came up to me and he said, I'm producing a very small film here. Okay. Very small at 20th Century Fox. But I'd still like, if you'd be interested, for you to play the lead role. And I said, well, I'm shooting Batman, and I don't know, I got to find out when we stop shooting, because they have a period called a hiatus when you're not filming. You don't shoot around.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said, I already checked, and you will be available because you'll finish filming. I said, geez, I'd love to do it. Okay. And I had no idea what it was, but an opportunity. And this is a role, obviously not Robin, right?
Yeah.
And I felt that I wouldn't have a problem getting the role because this was at the same studio. It's not like a competing studio contract where they'd say, well, we're not going to let you work for that other studio,
Yeah.
And everything was all set. I was going to do it. And at the last minute, ABC Network said to 20th Century Fox, we don't want him to do this role. And they said, well, why not? They said, because Batman is such a success. And I must tell you, at the time, ABC Network was not a network. It was a syndication network. It wasn't like a CBS or NBC.
Oh, wow.
And Batman and Bewitched, the enormous success of Batman and Bewitched that made ABC the third network. Okay. And because of that, they said, we don't want any dilution of Burt's character. We don't want to see him doing anything.
Wow.
That makes sense. The studio felt really bad. They said, this is the network. We have a network show. I mean, we're in a tough position, but we have to honor, because we have a contract, for you to do Batman. And I felt really bad, but at the same time, hey, like you win some, you lose some, right? But by the way, just in case you might have heard of the film, it was called The Graduate. When they met me, they got a guy named Dustin Hoffman to play the Graduate.
Yes,
this was the film that made his career.
Role for him. Yes,
gigantic role, gigantic thing, right? But it was a sleeper film. It became one of the biggest films in America.
Oh yes,
love that.
So you win some, you lose some, and I've always thought of it this way: that I don't have any regrets, because I look at acting, and what I've done is like a glass that is full of water. Your glass could be full of a whole bunch of different projects you've done, or your glass could be primarily full with one gigantic project that you've done and other supplements. But either way, the glass is still full. You still got it all. Right. And that's the way I look at it, because so many actors are like, they're all bummed out and they're this and that. And many of them, unfortunately, they get into drugs or alcohol or, you know what I mean? Who knows what? I've never done that. I've never done that. My wife and I, we're totally, we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't drink drugs, never have, never will.
Awesome.
And we've
That's
always,
her. I can't say that 'cause I went through 19 years of addictions, but she's never done any of that either.
well, there you go. You know, but I mean, in my industry, this is like,
That's unheard of.
That's unheard
Great,
of.
right? Right.
Yes.
And you know, we just and the thing is, and it's really sad. I must tell you that.
Let's go back to that. You talk about marriage now.
Yeah.
Sandy and I, we met, and I'd like to tell our story real quick as you
Go
say,
ahead.
because it's perfect for your story.
Yeah, perfectly.
But we met online back in February 2nd of 02. Talked on the phone for the first, and of course it was taboo back then, not like it is
Yeah,
now.
not common like it is.
But we
now.
met February 2nd of 02. Talked on
That's
the phone
19 years ago, right?
Yep.
19 years ago.
And we talked on the phone for the first time February 4th. Set a wedding date February 18th and met in person March 4th. So we were meeting in
Wait a minute,
person.
did you meet before or after the wedding?
but
Just
we were
kidding.
meeting.
Just kidding.
But we were
Wow,
meeting
now that
as
is
soon as we
really
got
wild.
married.
That is, wow, that's even wilder than my experience.
And I like to tell that story because again, I heard your story and I'm like, wow, on yours. So tell us how y'all met and what her dad tried to do. It was an
Oh, my
amazing story.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but I mean, I think yours is actually crazier than mine. What happened is, I'm also a business person, and even though being an actor, I feel that all of us, we can do whatever we want in life. You could be an artist, and yet you could be a business person. You can do. I mean, we're free. We should be able to do whatever we want, and we shouldn't be pigeonholed. Well, you can only do that, or you can only do this.
Right.
So I was involved with, again, charity work, as I've always done my whole life. And I was doing this thing, and I was actually running a publicly traded company, okay, which is something, not just a private company, a real public company. And my ultimately future father-in-law, one of the most impressive businessmen in America, this gentleman's name is Victor Posner. He was Forbes 400, if you know what that is. One of the richest people in America. He was on the cover, 1986 cover of Business Week as the highest paid executive in America. And I mean, very impressed. They made 2 movies about him called Wall Street with Michael Douglas.
Wall
Gordon
Street,
Gekko, good. He was like the most fierce, corporate raider in America at the time. Anyway, apparently, because I was running a publicly traded company, he heard about our company through a stockbroker, because, when you're running a public company, you're always talking to these brokers. They want to know what's going on in the company. So this and that, they can tell their customers. Anyway, so I didn't know this, but this one stockbroker had talked to Victor Posner, and Victor Posner had a daughter who was also into charity, who worked for her father like 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Didn't date, didn't do anything, was like the perfect daughter, right? I mean, like, you couldn't have any more perfect daughter that, for as far as a father's concerned, totally dedicated to the business, everything that father did. Well, and Tracy, who's now been my wife now for 31 years, she was a very unique person because she only sleeps 2 hours a night since she's 10.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't do that. She sleeps 2 hours a night. So she would work 20 hours a day for her father. She would come back to her apartment at night and do 2 hours of charity work and then sleep for 2 hours. Well, apparently her father found out that she was doing this charity work. I mean, working 20 hours for somebody when you normal 8-hour day, that was already more than twice a normal work day, right?
Oh, yes.
And he said, oh, no, I don't want you to do anything. You should only do stuff for the company, okay, for the empire, right? And he said, I'll find some company that will do that charity work for you so you could just dedicate yourself to this. So technically, he found our company.
Wow.
And he sent Tracy out to see me with to buy an interest in this company, not to buy control, but to buy an interest in the company with $10 million. $10 million to buy. Okay. So she, not knowing me, not knowing this, she said, I don't want to do that. I want to do my charity. Oh, I know you can't do it. So here you got a father-daughter thing going on, right? So anyway, she was out here on business because at the time she and her father owned Arby's, you know, the roast beef chain.
Oh,
Yeah.
love
She owned the
Arby's.
entire
Yeah.
chain. RC
Mhm.
Cola. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yes.
She owned
yes.
RC Cola. I mean, they own an
That's huge.
empire, okay,
Mhm.
of 3,600 companies, okay,
Oh, wow.
$126
Wow.
billion a year in business. I mean, 200,000 employees. I mean, it's an empire.
Mhm.
And he was out here on business, and he said, I want you to go see this Burt Ward. And she said, I don't want to see anybody. I don't need to see anybody. I'm happy doing, no, you got to go see this guy. So long story short, he said, you got to call him. And it turns out this was a Friday night. You know, at the end of the week, most people like, you know, they'll take Friday off at the end of work,
Sure.
go out and have an
Mhm.
evening, whatever. But this was at 5 o'clock on a Friday night. He says, you call this guy. Okay, you don't want to go see him, but you call him now. And if he's in his office, then you got to see him. But if he's not in his office at 5 o'clock on a Friday night, he's not one of us. So you don't have to. Right?
Ah.
So what did she
Wow.
do? She got a little busy and waited 2 hours and called me at about 8 o'clock at night. Okay, 3 hours later, I was still at the
Yeah.
office, right?
Mhm.
Wow.
And we got talking, and here's this person saying this and that, and I hear Arby's, and I said, then I hear RC Cola, then I hear these other. I said, wait a minute, you need to get your story straight. You're telling me about all these companies. You know what I mean? You know, which one do you work for? She said, I work for all of them. Well, you can't work for all. You know, I mean, I just couldn't. My mind couldn't conceive of that. So it
Yeah.
ended up where her father insisted that we meet. Okay, so we met. We talked for 12 hours straight. 12 hours straight
Wow.
talking. It's a lot of talking, right?
It is.
Our
But
first
the
night
thing
was
I will
4.
tell you is, you know, it's a
Yeah.
good thing I'm on your show and talking to you first, because if you were interviewing my wife, Tracy, you would think I was a mute. I mean, she will not let me get a word in. All right. So anyway, she and I talking for 12 hours, right? And
Mhm.
we like fell in love. And you know, and I said, and she said, well, I got to go to New York tomorrow. And I said, you know, I think we're destined to be in a relationship, and
Wow.
I think you should come back and marry me. You know what I mean? Because after your trip. And she said, well, I don't know. And then when I was leaving her, I dropped her off at her hotel, and I
Mhm.
just leaned over to give her a kiss on the cheek. You know what I mean? That's pretty
Okay.
conservative, don't you think?
Yes, it is. It is.
She wouldn't let me kiss her on the cheek. She said, I would never kiss anybody unless I was going to marry them.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
right?
Whoa.
And then she said to me that after I left, she said, 10 minutes after you left, I said to myself, I should have kissed him. I'm going to marry him. And she went to New York, and we talked on the phone, and I said, you got to come back and marry me. In the meantime, her father calls her. And my wife, Tracy, if she makes up her mind about something, it has already occurred. Do you understand? It's not like you're going to do, it's already occurred. So she says to her father, oh, I'm married. He said, what are you talking about? You couldn't be married that quick. She's not married. I'm moving to California, married an actor. He said, I told you when you were 3 years old not to do that. I made you promise. True enough, when she was 3 years old, her father said to her, whatever you do, never go to California or marry an actor. And she was 3 years old. He made her promise that. Dad, I can't hold on to that promise. I was 3 years old at the time, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the beginning of a very unique relationship where I ended up meeting her father, who really was such an impressive person. I don't think, I mean, you know, you see these shows on television like Dynasty and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and the real thing is like 10 times bigger and more powerful. And
Wow.
so it's been a real, it's been a real wonderful thing. And I am, honestly, I got to say, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I've never known anybody in my life that was literally, when I was describing earlier to, like, you know, like the perfect daughter, she's like the perfect human being. I mean, nobody's perfect, but she is about as close.
That's what I see in Sandy.
Just, you know, and I say to myself, I don't deserve her. She's too good for me. You know, she is such an incredibly kind, loving. And by the way, while we're talking, every single day for the last 27 years, for 18 hours a day, she's caring for these animals here in our home.
Oh, that is so amazing.
What a commitment, you know?
Wow.
Yes, that's a commitment.
And she could have do anything she wanted. You understand? But what does she do? She does charity work, and I do charity work. and we actually get more fun
Yeah, together.
doing things for others than doing for ourselves. I tell people I can only eat so many hamburgers a day, right?
Yeah.
You want to do something that really means something for people. So
Right,
now
something
we have
that
a new
matters.
company. We have this new corporation called Superheroes to the Rescue.
Oh, wow.
Oh, tell us
We're going to
about
be doing all of this stuff for, and the whole idea is that, and as my wife describes it so much better than I can, but she says we could all be superheroes in our own way if we do something that's kind to other people, to animals, and to better our world. And we're going to be doing TV programming and movies and all of these kinds of things right here on our own property, but all with the goal of trying to make a better world for all of us to live in, to be honest with you.
Love that.
We love
And, you know, speaking of family, we have a third co-host that we let come on as we close out here.
Our 9-year-old.
Our 9-year-old.
Christopher.
So she's going to go get him.
I will get him.
And we got a 2.5-year-old daughter that when she gets older, she'll be plugged in a show too, because we are a family affairs show.
That's fantastic. That is wonderful. That is absolutely, you know, family is so important. And I think in our country, we need families to unite, and we need to all be really, we all need to be a bigger family. It's like all of us, we're really part of one family. You know, I tell everybody we're on this planet such a short period of time.
We're the human family.
Yes. We need to make every day count, you know? That's well, hello there, citizen.
Hi, Burt Ward. So what's your favorite food?
What did you ask me a question? I didn't hear. What?
Yeah, what's your favorite food?
What did I didn't
Favorite
understand.
food.
Oh, favorite food. Oh, geez. Well, you know, actually, I'm a light eater. As soon as it gets light in the morning, I start eating. No, but that's a great question. You know, it's funny. I would think I was a picky eater when I was young, but as I get a little older, I find I seem to like everything. You know, and you know, I mean, so many different. I think I like spaghetti. Do you like spaghetti?
Yes.
I see. How about that? Yeah, we have something in common here.
Yeah.
May I
What's your
ask,
favorite,
how old are you? Are you 9?
I'm 9.
Really? What do you like to do?
What do I like to do?
Look at it. He's looking at mommy.
You like sports? Do you like to do sports? Do you like to?
Well, I play basketball a little bit.
He plays basketball at church from time to time. And video games, of course.
Really? You are able to get that basketball in the net? Are you able to?
Yes, a lot of
There
times.
you go.
And he's going to be
Wow.
tall because he's already 59 inches. And he's only 9.
Wow. At 9 years of age,
Yeah.
wow, you're gonna be the Jolly Green Giant. I
And
mean,
you know what's funny is I'm only 5'7", and Sandy's 5'5", so
Well,
it won't be long. He'll be past us.
yeah, that's right. And you know, somewhere in the genealogy, somewhere, you know, along the way, there was somebody tall in the family.
Well, her dad was like what 5'10".
5'10", yeah. So he's
And man, my dad, he's shorter than me, but he said that there's several people on his side of the family
Right.
that's been tall.
Right. Well, that's great.
So he's got that from somebody else, but not from Sandy and I.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's wonderful. It's so nice to meet you. Do you,
Yeah.
I mean, you like to play basketball? Is that what you like to do? How about
Yes.
baseball? Do you like baseball too, or what's
He
your
hasn't
favorite?
tried
I
that.
haven't tried it yet.
I see. Do you like to go hiking?
You
Do you like to
that?
exercise?
He likes to walk.
Yeah.
I see. There you go. Well,
Yeah.
that's terrific. Well, it's very nice to meet you. You have any other questions for me?
Yes. So what's your favorite episode of Batman?
My favorite episode of Batman?
Yeah.
Is that the question? Well, you
Yeah.
know, we did 120 episodes. That's a lot of episodes, 120.
Wow.
And
my
we
gosh.
fought a lot of heinous villains. Okay. I mean, we fought the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, the Catwoman. And I'll tell you, one of the really tough ones we fought was Egghead. We fought
Ooh.
Egghead.
Mm.
Yeah. And that was played by Vincent Price, by the way. And we had a big fight with him at Old McDonald's farm.
Oh wow.
But so actually, you know, I didn't have one single favorite because every week I got to work with a big star. And for me, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was kind of like you.
Is that cool?
You know,
Yes.
and
That's pretty cool.
so every week when somebody would come in and I say, oh my gosh, I saw that person on television, or I watched them in the movie theater. And I was so excited to meet these people. And then something else you might find interesting. There were so many major Hollywood stars that wanted to be on Batman, but remember there was only like one villain a week, or maybe in the last season, I think there was like a double villain or something. So many people wanted to be on our show. So the producers created that special scene where Batman and Robin are climbing up the side of the building and a window opens. And there would be like Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, wow.
or Lurch or Colonel Klink or so many different actors or actresses that would, Betty White. I mean, all these people that would be on our show, and all of their families were driving them crazy to be on Batman. When something is hot, everybody wants to have a part of it.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Okay.
amazing.
So what's your favorite movie?
Last question.
A favorite
question.
movie?
Yes.
Well, let's see here. I like to be open-minded. I would have to say Batman, the movie I did. I don't think I'm prejudiced about that.
No,
Not at all.
No.
Because what's yours favorite?
Mine is the Minions movie.
Which one?
The Minions movie.
The Minions.
Oh, wow, very good. How many times have you seen that?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Maybe,
The whole
maybe,
family has
maybe
seen that.
100 times.
100 times?
Yeah,
Probably.
maybe more.
Maybe more. Well, I'll bet you, you could probably recite those actors' lines. You could probably say everything that they're going to say, right? You already know ahead of time.
Yes.
Yep, he
Wow.
does.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, it's certainly nice to meet you. And is there anything else you'd like to ask me? You're welcome to.
All right.
Is
Bye.
that it?
Yeah.
Say thank you.
Bye, Nate.
Bye, citizen.
Cool.
So as we come to a close here, how did the holy thing part happen?
Well, that was written in the script. There was 400 or 383 of them. Plus, when you add in the Batman movie we did, it put it over 400. And but the holies were always tied to something. In other words,
Okay,
it
yeah.
wasn't just
Like holy interview.
right there you go. Or like we were in a spaghetti factory and we had a line like "Holy ravioli, Batman,"
Oh, I love that.
or things like that. Holy strawberries, Batman. Are we in a jam? I mean, kind of kooky things that. But yeah, there were so many of them, and once in a while, because we had different writers, that they didn't quite get the gags as much as Adam and I did, so they would let me rewrite them. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
To be more fitting the particular scene. So, but that was a fun, and of course, everybody. I mean, that has become such a common phrase, and people say things all the time. They don't even realize what they're saying when they say it. But they got it from our show.
Oh, amazing. So if you could say anything to your fans, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I would say be healthy, stay healthy, try to live your life the best way you can. Love your family and your friends and your neighbors, be kind to people, and actually I'll tell you on a more serious note, I like to tell people that there are 3 essentials to happiness. Would you like to know what those 3 essentials
Sure.
are?
Please tell us.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's the 3 essentials to happiness. Number 1, someone to love.
So
Number
important.
Number 2, something to do.
Oh, sure.
Number
We agree
3,
with that.
something to look forward to. Those are the 3
yes.
essentials to happiness.
And we got all
I
3.
Believe it.
Another thing, live each day as though it were your last, and someday you'll be right.
I love that. 'Cause that's how
powerful.
we evolved. People thought we were crazy when we married, because when we married, I always had this utopia idea that I wanted to be a 24/7 marriage, whoever I married.
Yeah.
And people called me crazy. They said this and that. I'm like, if I marry somebody, I want it I'm marrying to be with the person, not
Exactly.
away from the person.
You know, that's exactly what Tracy and I have. You know, her father said to her, well, I'm going to give you some advice. If you're going to marry this guy, be sure that you get away from each other enough during the day so that you don't get sick of each other. And Tracy says, oh no, I'm going to be with him 24 hours a day. And her father said, you're crazy. You guys cannot last. And she said, Dad, you know, you haven't done too well in that marriage department. So I don't think you should be giving me advice. And you know something? My wife, Tracy, and I are together 24 hours a day. And, you know, it can be stressful sometimes, but for the most of the time, it's like, I can't think of anything that I'd rather do. And so everything we do together, you know, and she's enjoying something at the same time I'm enjoying something, you know.
Yes.
Everywhere we go, we hold hands. We've been married for 32 years and we love each other. I mean, it's just
how it should be.
Date night. It's a date night wherever we go or do anything together.
Yes.
Yeah, we do a lot of day trips where we, you know, we're in Savannah, Georgia. So we sometimes we'll go to Jacksonville, Florida, sometimes Charleston, South Carolina, just for the day. You know, people still, again, they think we're crazy on that. We'll drive 2 hours to spend the day there and come back that late at night.
Great. That's a great trip. That is, you know, little trip, you know, there's another famous saying, okay, about because, you know, the things you're doing, they enrich your lives, right? I mean, you're bringing an enrichment. There's a very famous quote by a 15th century philosopher that said, for in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. And, you know, and it's not always big things. It could be little moments that you do and the things you share, you know, and I tell everybody we're on this planet for such a short period of time.
Yep.
Make every day count. Every day should count. And you know, you know, and especially in our world right now where there's so much strife and in our country and you know, and it's just a terrible thing. And I remember growing up in a different world, so to speak, than our world today, you know. And I worry about children growing up in a much tougher world that we have now.
With a 9-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, we worry about that.
Yeah. But anyway, you know, you all you can do is make the best, you know what I mean? Of everything, and you know, and that's what we do. But you got to be happy on the inside, because if you're not happy on the inside, nothing works for you. And that's why happiness is essential to all of us, you know.
So true. Yes.
I love that. And you know, we really enjoyed having you today, and because we could go on, and I have we'd be here for hours and hours.
And you know what the interesting thing is? You guys are such wonderful and so easy to talk to. And I think in the time that we've talked, I've only had to take 3 breaths. So that's all. That's all. I mean, we have no problem talking, as you can obviously see. And it just, I mean, I tell you, I keep telling my wife, Tracy, I said, you know, we should just put a camera on the 2 of us trying to get a word in with each other. And I said, people would be so entertained, like, who's going to win?
Who's going to win?
All right. Who's gonna get the last word? So but anyway, I've enjoyed it, and you guys are really a lot of fun, and
we appreciate
all the success. You know, I think you're gonna find that as time grows, you know, it's not always straight up success. You could go like this, and then you kind of got to go like that, then you kind of got to go like that, because nothing goes straight up except a rocket.
Yeah,
that's the only thing, right?
So, and when you get to that, and again, there's some success that goes straight up, but usually it's a long this way before, and then all of a sudden, you know, that one thing happens, and then.
Right. Oh, and well, there is one thing I wanted to come back to before we hang up, and that's something you brought up that I don't want to leave untouched, and that is you asked me about my friendship with Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Okay. As you know, Bruce Lee was the most famous martial artist in cinema the world has ever seen and may ever be. The most famous, right? And he lived in a complex of condominiums where I lived, and we knew each other. and we actually
Okay.
sparred together. Okay. And a piece of trivia for your viewers and listeners, that Bruce Lee's first filmed fight scene of his career was fighting me on Batman.
Oh, wow.
Oh, did not know that. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I remember, and there were times, I remember to go how far back it goes, that Bruce and his wife Linda, and they had a son Brandon who was 6 months old at the
Oh,
time.
yes,
Brandon
Yeah.
Lee.
Brandon Lee, mhm.
And we would go down to Chinatown because Bruce lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, and we would go down to Chinatown in LA, and he would order nothing that was on the menu. I mean, it had to be all the most authentic stuff, and he
Mhm.
was really a nice guy and a very smart person and very sharp. You know, I
Wow.
mean,
Mhm.
people say, what kind of a guy was he? He trained 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Mhm.
He never, no matter, I don't care if it's Christmas Day or New Year's, he trained 8 hours a day, and he was really fast. I mean, you just imagine, you know, just like I tell people after 27 years of caring for animals, how we're so good handling animals. Well, he was so good doing martial arts because he did it. I mean, he just lived it, ate it,
Mhm.
breathed it. And he was, and plus he was talented at it. You know what I mean? You can only,
Yes.
not everybody is talented at everything. You know, we all have
Mhm.
things that we're good at and other things we're not so good at.
Yes.
But he had a natural talent. You know what
Wow.
I'm saying? So
Mhm.
combine a natural talent with an amazing dedication that far
Mhm.
surpassed anything, you know, a work ethic in training that I have never seen before. So that's why he was so really good at, and everything he did was real. It was not,
Oh, wow.
he was every bit as fast as
As
it
it
looked.
seemed.
Mhm.
Wow.
In
I
fact, they had
love
a
that.
problem. They couldn't catch on. They'd have to slow down because they couldn't catch it on film. They actually, it would go by
Had
too
to slow
quick.
it down to
Yeah,
get
they
it.
couldn't catch it.
Wow.
They have to constantly ask them, no, don't do it, not so fast, not this and that. But you know, he was, and we had some good times, and and we laughed together and we talked together, and we just, I just enjoyed his company, and he was an amazing human being. It was a terrible loss that we lost him,
Yes, it
but,
You
was.
know,
but
Mhm.
he was one of the greats of all times.
love that.
Yes.
And that's it's a wrap. So we loved having you on the show today. And you know what? We look forward to having you back down the road.
Yes, it was an honor to have you here. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for your
Well,
time.
maybe next time I could bring my wife Tracy, because
We
she's
would love that.
she is an amazing person with an amazing story and a life story
Wow.
that, you know,
We would
was
love
so
it.
different than mine, but how
Yeah.
the two of us
Well,
came
you set it
together.
up and we'll get it done.
Yes,
Yeah, there
we'll
you
do
go.
it.
All right,
Sounds
well then I
great.
guess it's time to say goodbye, right? So the way
Yes.
we do it on Batman, as we say, to the Batmobile, citizens.
There we go.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.